Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. And we are still quarantined, obviously, as all of you probably are too. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The handle is CriticsPod. Our Patreon is not ihatecritics.net/Patreon. It is patreon.com/CriticsPod.
Actually, Bob, I wanted to let you know that on our Facebook page, I started the new hashtag Free Everyone's a Critic. Or Liberate Everyone's a Critic. That's what I meant to say. Damn it. I botched the Trump joke. Damn it. My timing's all off because I can't see you.
We can start over.
No, it's fine. No, this is much better.
But yeah, patreon.com/criticspod. That's also our Facebook or our Twitter and Instagram handle. We are on Alexa, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. It really helps the podcast get noted. And if you could click on the little bell above the posts in YouTube, that will get you notifications whenever a new episode is dropped. We have our TeePublic page at ihatecritics.net. There's a little link there you can click on. You can also click on the Patreon page from there as well. If you're having issues with the page, please let me know. I did have a listener tell me that he was having a hard time getting in the podcast in Pocket Cast, but I couldn't recreate his problem, so I'm hoping it's just on his end. But if it's not, someone please let us know so we can address it right away. Otherwise, we'll just get on to the podcast. Last week, I don't remember if I said it on the air or off the air to Sean, but I was under the impression my family was watching Trolls 2 while we were recording, so I was very excited. Hopefully they're watching Call of the Wild right now. But it turns out they weren't watching Trolls 2, and I had to watch it the next night, and it is horrible. It is one of my least favorite movies ever.
Seriously?
Well, and I'm a bias. I mean, for the most part, it's a throwaway movie, but I'm a big fan of rock music, and literally the villains of this movie is a rock band. And the whole point of the movie is all these genres need to come together and make music together. Well, they do that at the end, and they play a pop song because the pop genre, and it was just, I don't know, the whole thing just really annoyed me, and just frustrating that, you know, you're basically vilifying. And it wasn't just them. They vilified country. They vilified everybody at one point. And all for the... is Anna Kendrick and Justin Timberlake in this movie? I don't even know. I didn't look at the credits. I'm assuming
so. I mean, they were the voices of the first film, so...
And Timberlake's character was way... If it's him, I didn't even take the time to look because I don't care. He's not in it as much as he was in the first one. It's more about the girl character. But it's just, so stupid.
This deep, insightful commentary. Man, this sucks!
Yeah. I mean, basically the whole plot of the movie is, I think there's like 6 strings, and every genre has their own string, and they get together, and whoever has all the strings becomes almighty and powerful, and the rock band goes around and tries to steal the strings from all the different genres, while the pop group tries to get everybody together and play it all as one. And it's just dumb.
My stomach turned a little just from that description, honestly.
Well, what bugs me the most is, like I said, they get together at the end to play a one, you mix in jazz and rock and funk and techno and pop, and they're going to mix all these genres into one, and it's just essentially a pop song with like a little bit of a country thing at one point, and I wouldn't even call it rock ever, but it was embarrassing, and some good rock songs I normally like are kind of hurt, but on the next movie, some quasi-bad rock songs are helped. Let's move right on to The Death of Dick Long.
All right, yeah, the Death of Dick Long is an A24 movie, so I mean, off the bat, we are starting strong because they are just the best at what they do. A24 just knows how to pick movies, and boy, did they pick a good one here. The Death of Dick Long. When we talked about the trailer for this one last year, we thought we kind of knew where this was going, didn't we? We were both kind of theorizing back and forth what this was, and kind of developing the idea. Okay, we kind of know where this is headed. No, the fuck, we did not. So these three guys in Alabama are just hanging out. They're kind of just random rednecks, just living the life. They want to be rock stars, but they really don't have any type of ambition whatsoever. They get bored, they get drunk, they go out in a field and take a bunch of guns and fireworks. And again, you're sitting here thinking you know what's about to happen, and you just don't. So the next day, they've dropped him we see them actually drop him off at the hospital, badly injured. We don't know what happened, but they're hopeful, but they don't want to tell anybody what happened. And you're going to find out why they don't want to tell anyone, because it is absolutely horrifying. Michael Abbott Jr. is Zeke. Andre Highland is Earl. They're the two guys who drop off Dick. Dick is actually played by the director, Daniel Scheinert. And wow, this movie is incredible. And the reason it's incredible is not because it's completely outlandish or over the top or playing off of any kind of redneck stereotypes. It's incredible because it's taking this all very seriously, as if this is like it's treating this like you would treat a real situation, and they build a genuine gravity around these characters despite the absolute absurdity of what is taking place. And the juxtaposition of that absurd crime and how it's played is amazing. It is such a wonderful piece of drama. Daniel Scheinert, by the way, also the director of Swiss Army Man, he did the same thing in that story, couching a story about fathers and sons and identity inside the story of a guy who's trapped on an island talking to a dead guy who uses farts to get him back to regular civilization. He has an amazing ability to combine the absurd and the sublime in a way that few directors can, and that's why I just adore this movie.
Yeah, this is one of the most fun experiences I've ever had by myself watching a movie. My wife would not watch it with me, and so then I tried to explain it to her later, and when you find out how he dies or you don't even know how he died yet, you hear the doctor explaining to the cop what they found, and I'm telling my wife about it, and all of a sudden behind me, and not knowing he's there, my son goes, "What's that?" What they find in his and I don't know, man. It's you would expect this with the star like Rob Schneider or even the dude who played Kenny Powers. I could see them in a movie like this or an Adam Sandler type thing, and it'd be terrible. Just the worst movie I've ever seen. They take this so serious, like you said, which makes it so much more funnier, especially when you go to talk about it with other people. All I want to do is spoil it for everybody in the world, because it's. But you really need to watch it for yourself and find out what happens on your own. I mean, I don't know.
It's amazing the scene with the cops and relating to the cops what happened, and you're having the same experience that they are in that moment, and that's so amazing. You never get that in the movies.
No, I mean, even when he's having to tell his wife what happened.
What a scene! What a scene!
I mean,
she is so amazing in that moment.
Yeah, the level of acting, of dedication to that role. I mean, I guess it's similar to Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe in Swiss Army Man. That's who is in that movie, right? Where they're fighting the whole time, and and just being amazing. And that scene is so goofy. Or in this movie where he's explaining what happens, any lesser performance just takes you all the way out of it. Instead of just sitting there invested, but at the same time laughing, but not maybe out loud, but you can't wait to talk about it with somebody somewhere. Oh my God, it is just...
That actress's name is Virginia Newcomb, and I've not seen her in anything before, but she's just pitch perfect. She just nails this, and the conflict that she has between loving this man and being absolutely horrified by this thing that's happened in a way that, again, you can't understand it without seeing just why she's so mortified by what he's saying. And Michael Abbott Jr., my God, this guy is good. Why hasn't he not been in every movie?
Why didn't we see this movie last year? I guess is my main question. I mean, this is potentially a top 10. I mean, I'm having a hard time. I don't know, but I think it could have been. It's that original and that much fun. I'm kind of bummed that not enough people are going to see this because it is. I mean, it's better than Swiss Army Man as far as I'm concerned.
Swiss Army Man is definitely like a first step of a really great director finding himself, and this is the culmination of that. It's very similar to a sort of Hereditary Midsummer step up.
Right. Well,
not that Swiss Army Man is that good, but it's good.
Right. And I'm trying to get people to watch it, and the way because I don't want to spoil anything because you really can't ruin. I guess I'll tell them it's kind of like if Tusk took itself seriously all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of does, but it definitely, you can tell a stoner really was having fun at the end there. I don't know, and that's not even that great of a comparison. It is, but I want everybody to go see it now and come and talk to me about it because it is, even right now, isn't satisfying enough because we can't go into why. I mean, we can't even really put it at the end of the show because it's that. I don't know. It is that crazy.
The Nickelback. There's Nickelback in the movie. It's perfectly used. It so captures who these characters are in both times that they use it. It's one of the best uses of music I've seen in a movie in a very long time.
Yeah, a song I don't like particularly well.
I loathe that song, but
not anymore.
So good here.
I will never be able to separate that song from this movie. I mean, I'll kind of have an appreciation for it now. Even the With Arms Wide Open from Creed is kind of fun, the way they use that. I don't know.
Oh, it's a good movie. If you've never seen it, you've got to see this. It's so incredible. And, Daniel Scheinert is amazing. The guy just does a hell of a job. He nails it. He nails the tone, and you wouldn't think that anybody could nail the tone of something this weird. It's so tricky. It is such a. I mean, because the desire you have is to make fun of this, to be the absurdity that it's engendered, but his best realization is realizing, yes, that is absurd, but this is something that for these people really happened, and how would you take that if it were you? Not that I could ever imagine myself in these guys' situation, but I like that he gave it that level of reality. It's based on a real story from the state of Washington in 2005, but again, don't look it up. Do not look up anything about this movie. Stay away from the wiki. Stay away from IMDb. See this movie first.
Yeah, you want to find out what happened on your own. It is really worth it. Oh, man.
We thought we knew.
No. Yeah, we weren't even close.
I think that just made it so much better.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, I don't know. The cops, too, at the end.
Sensational. Sarah Baker is the young cop, and yeah, she's she's great. She's really great.
Yeah, go see this movie so I can talk about it all the way through with somebody, please.
We can do a spoiler thing like after Flick Chart.
All right, it'll be way at the end. So if you don't normally, well, just after Flick Chart, we're going to come back to this.
Yeah.
Vivarium.
Vivarium stars Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen to their relationship, and they're looking for a new place to live, and they've decided to look at a home, and they arrive at this very odd realty office where this very strange man begins to talk to them about a particular neighborhood that is brand new, that nobody else has lived in before. he takes them there to look at the house and then leaves them there, and they can't escape. Every house is green, and they all look exactly the same, with the same manicured lawn, the same fence, the same door, except for the numbers. The numbers are different. The one that they're assigned to is number 9. And no matter what they do, no matter how they drive around, until they run out of gas, they always seem to end up back in front of number 9. They are there. They wake up the next day, and somebody has dropped supplies, and they're angry, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of here. And the next day, another package arrives, and it's a baby. And then another day passes, and the baby is now like a 4 or 5 year old child. It is so creepy and weird and so disturbing. I'm not sure if this movie is entirely successful, but I was fascinated by what was happening, and I thought it was exceptionally well manicured, like put together in a way that is very intriguing. I just didn't think they stuck the landing, and I really wanted to see something happen at the end that would bring it together, and for me, it didn't quite come together in that final moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not it's too much like what we're going through now that it's not fun to watch.
Right, yeah, because they're basically confined to this one place with nobody else around. They can go outside, but they can't. Obviously, there's nobody else there, and it is very reminiscent of being in quarantine.
So them going crazy is really not that much, other than the fact that they have a baby who turns into a 5-year-old who turns into a teenager. Other than that, you kind of are feeling the same things they feel already on your own, that this isn't really an escape for you. So it was really hard for me to get into, so I'm not sure if it's good or not. I was really not wanting to watch it. I mean, I finished it, but I kept going out of the movie, and I just was not invested. And I'm with you. The ending, I was just kind of like, okay, what's really happening here? I don't really care anymore.
Right.
Just want it to end.
Yeah. I mean, I think at a certain point, it just kind of, it loses momentum. She's chasing him, the grown son, after we have no idea how long they've been there. But she's chasing her now. She chases him under there, and something weird happens, and basically the movie just kind of peters out at that point. And I was kind of hoping for something more definitive or exciting to happen, and I thought it just ended on a kind of meh note, especially considering what came before it.
Well, I mean, there were some like exciting things that happened. It was just kind of like, but it didn't have that punch like it should have, I feel. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about Jesse Eisenberg. He starts to flip out, and his solace comes in digging a hole in the front yard. So he's going to dig his way out, and I kept waiting for something to come of that. I kept waiting for something to be to happen with that, and something kind of does, but it doesn't really. And then by the end, you kind of get what was going on, what he's been digging this whole time, and it's kind of a letdown. Like the movie, I think the filmmakers thought they were saying something very profound, and I just don't think it worked for me.
Yeah, and I have no idea if I'd seen it 6-7 months ago if it had worked, but it definitely didn't work today.
I guess this has got to hit home a little bit more to people who are married, because they start to really hate each other.
And I mean, I wouldn't say we're there, but you definitely have that. I mean, I was out of it even before they got there. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It was just too much work. Not enough of it.
Great looking movie though. I mean, the cinematography is pretty great. The production design is wonderful, and it creates a very unique sci-fi world. I loved how the clouds in the sky never moved. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really neat look, and it really does you're kind of left baffled by what's happening, and you're constantly intrigued trying to figure out what it is that's holding them there, where they're being held, how they're being held there. But the movie isn't particularly interested in answering those questions. No. It likes raising them, but it doesn't really like coming up with anything. I don't think they really had what they wanted here. And they wanted to say a bunch of stuff and ask some deep psychological questions, and they ask those questions and then they just kind of leave them there.
Yeah, I mean, the performances were fine, too. I mean, she was particularly good, but again, just not invested enough, not enough in Escape for me.
Too far up its own butt.
Yeah. Let's see, good, I hit record, okay. Just had the sudden fear I didn't hit record, and so I had to look down. We're good. Dark Side of the Ring, the next episode, Jimmy Snuka.
Yes, Jimmy Super Fly Snuka. How can I say that? He's awful.
I know. This
is probably the weakest so far for me of the Dark Side of the Ring series. This one didn't hold my attention as much. It's nothing. I understand that there's a very compelling story here, but I just don't think they quite had the compelling characters that they've had in the previous one. And I know I'm saying that we're talking about a real life murder, and I apologize because you can't just invent colorful characters just to tell this story. But it's not funny. It's not meant to be funny. It's not meant to be entertaining. But it's also not. It's so dry and so. I don't know. I kept doing other things while it was on, and maybe that's on me. I don't know, but I just didn't get into this one. That said, the elements are there for a very compelling story because the WWE essentially worked to cover up a murder, and they basically paid off the Allentown police to go along with it, at least allegedly. Right. But I mean, come on. It's clearly what happened because it's very clear that the Allentown police did absolutely no investigation. They didn't know that there was a third person in the car the day that Nancy Argentino supposedly tripped and fell, which was Jimmy Snuka's contention that she had suffered injuries from a fall. She went to bed and she didn't wake up. That was his contention. But there was a third person in the car, and they never bothered to find out about it until this show told them about it. The Allentown police officer, they told them about it. They also completely ignored, the Allentown cops ignored their own coroner, completely ignored his report, who said this should be investigated as a homicide, and then they hid the report. And, I mean, just basic eyeball evidence. They ignored that. I mean, she suffered injuries from a fall, right? But there's clearly this big, giant bruise around her throat. How do you get an injury like that, tripping and falling?
Yeah.
And you're able to get up, and she finished the drive back to the hotel. But she had a crushed larynx. Come on.
Yeah, this one, I'm with you. One, I mean, I listened to a couple episodes. There's a podcast, the Dark Side of the Ring podcast, I guess they call it, but it's on Grilling JR. They do a couple episodes just dedicated to the show, but JR is not part of it. And they talked about this one. This episode, they interviewed more people for than any other episode they've ever had. But it really should have been almost a two-parter. Instead they try to just kind of cram it together, and I think it loses something there by not spending enough time on certain things. The third guy in the car, that's brand new. That's never been brought up before. They were kind of the ones that uncovered that, but it also comes from a guy that you don't necessarily know if he knows what he's talking about, and because you do witness potentially that he might not be all there. He could be confusing it with another time. He may not be, because he was also supposed to be defending Jimmy Snuka in this episode.
Well, it's interesting, though. I was thinking to myself as he was telling his story, well, why does he remember this one random run between places in Pennsylvania in 1982? Well, there's a reason why he remembers it, because it was the day that Nancy Argentino died. Obviously, you would make note of that, whether your memory is good or not. The day somebody you know is killed or dies is something that would etch itself in your memory, and so you would remember that day.
Yeah, but he didn't know her name. You know? So, I mean...
She wasn't that big a part of his life.
That's my point. I mean, I don't know. That's never been brought up before. That's something brand new that this show brought up. So that wasn't even something that. But they never asked that. No one. I mean, I've listened to a couple different.
Key.
Right.
The police never asked him. They never asked anybody if there was somebody else in the car.
Right.
Jimmy never said anything about there being somebody else in the car. Nobody bothered to ask the question because they weren't actually investigating. And
if you read his book or listen to interview, his story has changed to everybody he's talked to. He's never told the same story in terms of how she actually died. She outside. I mean, he's gradually changed it over the years, and I don't know. It's really more than anything heartbreaking for the family that had to go through it because they never really did get closure and really never will. So, because when they finally caught him and were going to put him away, he was ruled unfit to stand trial and then died 10 days later. So, I don't know.
It's so blatant and so obvious that the cops just completely blew this off. I mean, it's one of the more blatant cases of corruption that you could ever imagine, and yet somehow this episode isn't particularly interesting about that. And I don't quite know why that is, but it's not particularly interesting about that. I think this material deserves something better than.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I lost you better. I heard you say something better and then it cut out, so I wasn't sure, but that's a good way to end it anyway.
All right.
Yeah, I'm still going to keep watching. It's a decent show, but the more, I don't know, I've been listening to, I don't know why, but I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that they keep popping on because they keep popping on shows they listen to. And there's starting to be more and more holes in some of these stories. They're not professional investigators, and I don't know. It's just it does. Part of me shouldn't look as deep behind the curtain as I have been because it has affected, especially like the Chris Benoit one and their lack of Kevin Sullivan. But yeah, I'm still curious because it is. If nothing else, it's interesting. But yeah, this one was the weakest so far of both seasons, really, in my view.
The next one is the assassination of Dino Bravo, and that one is rather fascinating. There's rumors about mob involvement and other sorts of crime, and Dino Bravo's life was a strange one. He was a character that I was rather fascinated with as a kid, as this nasty heel who was fighting like I think Roddy Piper and Bret Hart. I always hated him, and he was always great at getting heat. So I'm fascinated by that one. So looking forward to seeing that one this week.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's see here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic
Eurotrip.
We use the term classic very loosely on this show. No, this is weird though. So Saturday morning, I get out of bed and I'm scrolling Twitter like I always do on a day off, and lo and behold, the top trend on Twitter Saturday morning was Scotty doesn't know, and I recognize this as a closet fan of this movie it's like, Scotty doesn't know, that's Eurotrip, that's Matt Damon sings the song, and that's the running gag through the movie. And I'm like, how in the hell is this trending on Twitter 16 years after this movie came out that no one should remember because it's not a memorable movie? It had no ambition to it, and yet here it was on a random day in April of 2020. Scotty doesn't know is the top trend on Twitter, and so I had to watch the movie again, and then I wrote about it. And it remains a movie that has absolutely no ambition and really no through line. His girlfriend has cheated on him with a guy played by Matt Damon. That's over in the first 10 minutes of the movie. He decides to chase after this girl that he met online, Mika, but he's mistaken her all this time for Mike, his online friend. And he finds out that she's a really hot German chick, and he wants to go to Germany to meet her and to consummate their relationship. He's taking along his buddy, and they're going to meet up with a couple of other friends who had already had a trip planned to Europe, and they all hook up and go on this journey that's basically just a series of international sketch comedy where they just get into all sorts of weird situations. Fred Armisen pops up as this lecherous Italian guy who's touching people, and it's funny because it's Fred Armisen doing it. There's a bit with a mime that's just sort of there, but it's kind of funny in that moment. There's a bit with Xena, the lady who plays Lucy Lawless, pops up for a minute and has a funny moment. It's a guilty pleasure. It's not a good movie, but it never fails to make me smile. I really like the cast. I like how willing they are to be the butt of the joke. Each and every one of them. They really work together well. Like you're in a movie like Fred and his straight man lead character, who's the romantic lead, and he's always like the cool guy. And I think at least Scott Meklowitz, the lead character, he at the very least he kind of upends some of those tropes by being so willing to be the butt of many jokes in the movie, and I like that about it. It's at least one minor twist on this otherwise very familiar genre.
Isn't Michelle Trachtenberg his sister in this? Isn't there weird incest things that happen? And I haven't seen it in a while.
His sister, but yeah, her brother is with them, and they have a weird
that's right.
moment, which is also very, very funny.
I don't know why I remember that. I'm at IMDb now, and that's the picture of them at the party if I remember right. I remember being surprised by this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I was just kind of the Matt Damon right off the bat with a pretty catchy song.
It is. And I just love the way they keep bringing it back throughout the movie. They keep bringing it back. It's so great. It just makes me laugh every time I hear it.
But no, like you said, loosely we're using the word classic, but I remember it being very watchable and very fun at the time, and I don't think I've gone back to it yet. And I would have gone back this week, but we made it the classic about 40 minutes ago. But I'm glad we did it.
They're like, hey, I wrote about this thing. Matt Damon was talking about this. He was talking about this movie actually not all that long ago, about how he ended up being in the movie. And he just happened to be in Prague where they were shooting a couple of scenes, and his college friend was the director, and he asked him if he'd do a thing, and he agreed, and there it was, and it becomes the centerpiece of the movie.
That's amazing. Man. Anything else on Eurotrip before we move on?
I still have no idea why it was trending. I don't know. It must have been showing somewhere. It must have been on TV or FX or something like that for some reason. But it was just weird to look up and see Scotty Doesn't Know and Eurotrip as the top trend on Twitter 16 years later. That's my favorite part of what I wrote about it was the title, the comedy we were supposed to forget, because this is not a movie that was meant to be remembered.
But yet it kind of is.
Yeah. It's still part of our culture somehow. I still want to know whatever happened to Scott Meklowitz. I don't know why his career never panned out. He just didn't really do much after this. And he's still acting, he's still working, but I thought he had kind of a potential for a breakout, but I also kept confusing him with Colin Hanks, so that may be a problem.
Have any of them really? I remember she was kind of a decent star. Does she still do stuff? Michelle Trachtenberg?
I think she does, but I've not kept track of her. I don't know what she's doing now, and none of the cast really. Haven't really went on anything.
Yeah, she's done a little TV. It looks like
the Damon guy got pretty big, but he was already pretty big.
Yeah, I guess a sidetrack. Kevin Smith's doing a lot of commentaries of Jane Silent Bob Reboot. He just keeps doing commentary tracks and then releasing them as podcasts. And he's been talking about how Matt Like, they literally finished the movie, and Ben Affleck's scene was done and everything, and then Matt Damon's like, hey, I'm available. Can I be in it? So they added that whole just random scene, which is why it's just kind of doesn't fit with the movie at all. Let's see, 1990, Marked for Death.
Yeah, Marked for Death. Steven Seagal. Does he play a cop in this one, or does he just play a cop in every movie he's in? I don't know. He moves to Chicago to work with this buddy of his, and they end up confronting Jamaican drug dealers, led by the Jamaican drug dealer of all Jamaican drug dealers, Screwface.
Really? That's his name?
Like, just basically group of criminals that he keeps sending it at Seagal and Keith David, and they keep killing all his guys, and finally Seagal cuts his head off. But oh no, wait, there's a twist. There are two Screwface. They're twins, so he's got to kill him again. But the first one he kills is really the iconic one, because it's a sword fight. So he kills 3 goons with one of those classic arm break moves where it never looks like you're breaking your real arm. You get that obvious plastic arm that you break in a movie. He just grabs it and breaks it over his shoulder. But when he comes to killing Screwface has this giant blade, samurai sword, and he's swinging it at Seagal, and Seagal takes it from him and then swords him right in the balls, and then as he's bent over holding his balls that are now falling off, he just chops his head off.
Nice.
That's Marked for Death.
Does Keith David make this even halfway watchable?
He might, but he's on autopilot. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Elvin, yeah, he's always good. I wish he and Seagal would fight like he and Roddy Piper did, but it doesn't happen. He does get to throw some punches. That's cool.
Miami Blues.
Miami Blues. Wow. So I started to live tweet this while I was watching it Saturday, and then I deleted the whole thread. But I actually managed to live tweet the whole thing because it starts off in the most bizarre fashion. So Alec Baldwin is this con man, criminal, just kind of drifting. He arrives in Miami, and he gets off the plane. First off, he's acting like he's never seen a plane before in his life, like he's just mesmerized by plane travel. It's just completely, he can't believe that there's a giant metal tube in the air that is above the clouds. He's just mesmerized. He gets off the plane, and right there in the airport, murders a man. Just straight up murders him. But get this, he doesn't murder him in a traditional fashion. He murders the man by breaking his fingers.
Wow, impressive.
And I don't know, but he breaks the guy's fingers. The guy dies. He's a Hare Krishna, by the way, this guy who gets killed. And we cut to a scene where Fred Ward is a detective investigating this murder, and he's just, the movie has no any kind of comic tone, but apparently in the 80s and 90s it was really funny for people to kill Hare Krishna or to make fun of them. And so there's this whole scene of him and his partner just kind of bantering with no real kind of levity to it, but they're bantering like this is funny. And there's another Hare Krishna guy there who is praying over his dead friend. And the one cop looks at Fred Ward and makes some kind of joke, then slaps the Hare Krishna on the shoulder and uses him to get up and to stand up straight. What the fuck kind of tone is this? What is happening in this fucking movie? The finger breaking thing then becomes a signature because Fred Ward keeps commenting on it, and Baldwin kills another guy with the finger break. How do you kill people by breaking their fingers? I have no idea, but that's becomes a thing. Fred Ward's entire character, then, is built entirely around the fact that he has false teeth. And he keeps bringing this up, and people keep bringing it up to him. He gets up from his desk at the police department to go investigate the murder, and one of his other buddies has to stop him and hands him a glass with his teeth in it. He takes him out and he puts his teeth in. And this becomes a thing. And it's like everybody's got this little bit of business that they got to do in the movie that has nothing to do with the plot, but they got a bit of business to do. You know, Baldwin's got to really got to do crazy shit throughout the movie to get money. So he's like robbing people, but he's doing it in weird ways. He's like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? He robs from the other robbers. He robs from the rich. Then he's got this romance with Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's like a teenage prostitute. This movie is bizarre. It has no point. It's supposed to be, I guess, a gritty noir, but they don't get that done in terms of making a tone. I'm just utterly baffled by what this movie is and what it's trying to be.
The tagline is real badge, real gun, fake cop.
That's like a really small part of this movie. Like, he steals Fred Ward's badge and beats him up, doesn't kill him for whatever reason, takes his badge and gun and begins to just kind of flash it around to use it to try and rob people. And that's like, that takes place for like 20 minutes in the movie, late in the movie.
It's also the poster of the movie, is him holding the badge and the gun, with Fred Ward as top billing on top of that.
Which is bizarre, because he's really not in this movie all that much. Like, he's very much of a supporting character to Baldwin.
Because he's Fred Ward. That's what he always did his whole career. Oh, man.
I didn't write. I think it's like it becomes not interesting bad, but like competent bad, and that competent bad is kind of boring to me. So there's like compelling things that are happening, and Jennifer Jason Leigh is performance here, and I can still kind of poke holes and make fun, but there really wasn't enough meat on the bone for me to go, let me take this tweet thread and turn it into a full-length review.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on to Flickchart so we can get back to the death of Dick Long. Gone with the Wind, The Negotiator.
The Negotiator.
Yeah.
I can't watch Gone with the Wind. It's so long.
Angels in the Outfield, 1994, The Patriot.
The Patriot.
Yeah. Death Proof, Queen of the Damned.
Death Proof.
Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Harry Potter.
As Good as It Gets, Sex and the City.
As Good as It Gets.
The Shining, Constantine.
The Shining.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes, Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo.
Sherlock Holmes.
Ooh, American Ninja. I haven't talked about that in a long time. Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6.
Come on, Internet. You got this.
It's interesting how Big Hero 6 has like no legacy whatsoever. It's a really solid, entertaining kids movie, and it had no like cultural cachet whatsoever.
Yeah, I remember my kids not liking it at first, but then it definitely grew on my son. He ended up liking it a lot, but you're right. It's not like, he doesn't have any posters or anything. It's all, that's definitely the least talked about of all of them.
Yeah, my goddaughter completely rejected the Big Hero 6 doll I gave her, the stuffed robot toy. She just rejected it outright.
Wow. I see.
And this is a kid who still plays with her Okja pig, so maybe she's just got really good taste. Maybe I'm just lucky that way.
That's funny. Ice Age 2, The Meltdown, Raging Bull.
Raging Bull.
Demolition Man, Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide.
I'm flipping. I have a soft spot for Demolition Man. Heads, thank you. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Weird Silent Science.
Weird Science for me.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that one. Parenthood, Sleepless in Seattle.
Sleepless in Seattle. I find Parenthood to be insufferable.
Agreed. Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible, or Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. Jurassic World, Sleepless in Seattle.
Jurassic World.
Rango, 12 Monkeys.
Ooh, that is tough. Because I really like 12 Monkeys, but Rango was one of my top 10 movies of the year it came out, and really close to the top of that list. So I'm going Rango.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Imitation Game, Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Dune, The Thomas Crown Affair with Rene Russo.
It's been so long since I've seen Dune, I don't remember if I even like it or not. But I know that the Thomas Crown Affair meant absolutely nothing to me. Whereas I know I'm going to revisit Dune, so Dune.
Oh man, I'm most likely to watch Thomas Crown Affair again, or at least part of it. That's not the reason you can't vote for. I'll go with Dune. You can't. Tron Legacy, Hancock.
Hancock.
Back to the Future, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Back to the Future.
Agreed. Tangled, Twin Sisters. I don't know what Twin Sisters is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Tangled, Police Academy.
Tangled.
Yeah, Lars and the Real Girl, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, I love Lars. That's a shame. Pulp Fiction.
First time it ever pops up here, and it has to lose.
Yeah.
Bowfinger, Stargate.
Bowfinger. You know what's surprising is Swiss Army Man hasn't popped up since we've been talking about it. Maybe your computer's not listening to us tonight.
Little Shop of Horrors, Bicentennial Man. Sorry, I lost interest reading it.
It's 2 words.
I know, but both of them kind of bore me, so. All right, let's talk about the death of Dick Long.
All right, now please, if you've not seen this movie, turn this off now. Go watch the movie and come back.
Yeah. You got 3, 2, 1, and from here on out, it's your fault for, yeah.
So we're talking about this movie, The Death of Dick Long, which is one of the best movies we've seen in the last year, for sure. And basically, this all centers around an incident that happens after a group of 3 friends who were in a sort of rock band together. They just like hanging out. They've spent the evening getting really drunk and playing with fireworks and firing guns. And then they retired to this barn, horse barn. And the next thing you see is they're in the car. They're driving Dick to the hospital. Massive internal injury. He's bleeding, and then they're going to just sort of drop him in front of the hospital, and he's going to get discovered by Roy Wood Jr. as the doctor. So what happened to Dick Long?
Well, before we get there, hold on. When they go to the hospital, they park on the other side of the woods, walk through the woods, so totally unnecessary. So then no one sees the car when they drop the body off in front of the hospital.
Right.
So, just an interesting thing I wanted to add there, yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. So what happens to Dick Long? From what we're told, and Roy Wood Jr., as the doctor, drops this information first in a conversation with Sarah Baker as the police officer, and he informs them that what's been found inside of Dick Long is horse semen. Now, they've theorized that there was some sort of sexual activity because he did have severe anal trauma. And they assumed that this was some sort of sexual assault, but they didn't find any human DNA. And further testing found that he'd basically been violated by a horse.
Now, did you think for 2 seconds that maybe it was an alien or something like that? Like they were going to go there? Because they do wait a while before they say horse.
Alien did not cross my mind.
I had no idea where this was going to go, and there's no way I would have ever thought horse. even I don't know, but they did.
Yeah, and from there, once this, I mean, you're kind of thinking like it. You're kind of, or at least I was kind of going. But I'm like, what could have possibly they're all just fucking each other, okay?
Right.
And they kind of feel ashamed about that as guys, and I get it. I get what that's like, okay. And then when you arrive at that point, it is not. I don't know that I was necessarily shocked, but I was definitely surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And the surprise just. It registers in such a unique way because it's taken, again, even this scene, and even as apoplectic as they are and absurd as it is, they don't make a joke of it. They're just all kind of puzzled by it. And I thought that was a wonderfully captured reaction between those three characters, between the sheriff, Sarah Baker, and Roy Wood Jr. That just this sort of apoplexy, like they can't wrap their minds around what they're discussing. And that's it's a very human reaction to that, because again, your desire in that moment is to reject this and to reject this idea, and the way that most of us choose to reject something that is so unthinkable to us is to kind of joke about it, and there are no jokes in this moment.
No, I mean they even multiple times say she was looking for Dick, and they want you to laugh, but they're not laughing.
Right.
They even acknowledge that it could be funny, but they never laugh. They play it straight. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's so real world, and apparently it's real.
But I mean, when the jokes do come, when there are big laughs in this movie. When the laughs get there, they are huge laughs, and then you realize what you're laughing about, and you're kind of met again with the gravity of what's been taking place, and that is such an amazing trick for a movie to pull on an audience, is to draw you in so deeply to the human levels of this, and then that absurdity pops in and you laugh uncontrollably. There's the big catharsis moment, and then you're back to, oh my god, this guy died from being fucked by a horse.
And then the idea that they maybe could have saved him had they actually gone to the hospital and not walked through the woods and taken, they were so concerned about getting caught, and which made it even more weird. Like, I mean, I don't know. They were so concerned with not getting caught that they just kept doing more and more stupid things. And any other movie, like anytime a movie backs itself into a corner, usually it has to kind of cheat to get out of that corner. This one just keeps going, It backs itself into a corner, then they get caught, and then the daughter witnessed something, and so it's just unlucky things that happen to them after from then on out, and with an amazing soundtrack that played along with it too. I will never, if I hear that Nickelback song, Remind Me, or whatever it's called, I'll never not think about horse fucking. And that's kind of fun.
That is kind of fun. That's so great. It opens and closes on that song. I love the fact that it closes on that song. The final moments of this movie, the cops decide that, or at least the sheriff decides that there's just not enough to charge Earl and Zeke with any kind of crime. I mean, Sarah Baker points out quite rightly that they were essentially negligent in his death, and there is something there that they could be charged with how they didn't properly get him help. But the sheriff really, do you want to explain this to other people? I don't want to explain this to other people. But the heart of the movie is that right there. That is the heart of the movie. Is the shame. The way that the lead actor plays that shame, that deep, abiding shame. He is so ashamed of this thing that he's done before. This has been part of his life for some time. This isn't the first time that he's been involved with this horse. This is a thing that's been going on with him for years, and the shame of that has built to this and to this moment now that mixes with so many other things, because a friend of his has died, and he still has this desire to be part of what he did before. There's a scene where he goes back to the horse, and it is a scene that is challenging and weird and awkward and amazingly well played.
Yeah, never played, as a joke. Even when they go back to the horse, him walking out of the police station and everybody looking at him, such a good scene. Him going to his daughter's piano recital, and not being able to, really having to stand in the back, and that it is so. I mean, that's dedication to a role that, maybe more can pull off than I'm giving credit for, but for the most part, they're going to make a joke of it, and this does not do that. Oh, so good.
Yeah, it is confrontational in that way that it brings you not necessarily to his side, because it's not really about sides. I'm definitely judging him. I think we're all judging him, but you also they just give him such humanity, and that's what so many other movies like this rob that character of their basic humanity and just make him a punching bag. This movie is not about making Zeke a punching bag. It's about making him a human.
You there? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Did you hear what I said?
You're making him a human being. Okay, good. Yeah, and that's, I don't know. It's so well done. The guy Earl with the jewel constantly, I don't know why that entertained me. His little neighbor lady in the trailer park, she pops in for some good interaction. I don't know. The whole thing is just so well thought out and executed.
The fact that it ends with y'all want a party just started with y'all want a party. It's just
and
so
the Nickelback
great.
song. Oh, man.
Oh, y'all want to get weird. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I gotta get the quote right.
Yeah. Such a good movie. Go see it. Hopefully you're not listening if you haven't seen it, but it is.
Yeah.
It is good.
That actress, by the way, is Sunita Mani, who's been in a few different things. She's always very funny. She was on The Good Place, and she's on Mr. Robot.
That's where I recognize her from.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and welcome presence for sure in this movie.
Yeah, it is damn near a perfect movie and perfect A24 movie. Please go see it if you haven't already.
The more we talk about it, the more I love it.
I know, and I just can imagine talking to my brother, my friends, cousin Jeff. I could imagine this getting Josh. This could have been a blast. Zach would be fun. Michael, any of these guys.
Hey guys, if you want to record your reactions to this, because I know you guys are listening, send them over to us.
If you want to do another podcast about it, I'm all game for that too.
Exactly. Yes.
All I want to do is talk about this movie with other people. Man, I'm glad I bought it too, because that was the thing. It was like I could rent it for like $6.99 or buy it for $9.99. I'm definitely gonna watch this movie again. Oh man.
Yeah, this one's in the canon for sure. This one is going to stand alongside other A24 movies that we've seen, and just thank you for the gift that you continue to give the world, A24.
Yeah. What do you think this guy does next?
That is a great question. I can't wait to see what he does next. Daniel Scheinert, this and Swiss Army Man, that's already a pretty strong start, and he's in getting into that rarefied area of the directors that I absolutely need to know what they're going to do next.